Welcome to This Explainer. Have you ever looked at a teacher standing at the front of a classroom and thought, that looks like a pretty straightforward job? Well, today, we are going to completely shatter that illusion. The reality is, teaching is like a massive, multifaceted iceberg. What we actually see floating on the surface, the lectures, the grading, the lesson plans, is just a tiny fraction of the whole picture. Beneath the water is this colossal, complex structure of skills, hidden roles, emotional labor, and serious systemic hurdles. So let's break it all down and explore the true anatomy of a teacher.
Here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start with what is teaching really, then move to the traits of effective teachers, uncover the hidden hots teachers wear, explore navigating modern classroom challenges, and finally wrap things up with a quick reflection.
Section 1. What is teaching really? Our source material roots its definition in a pretty profound quote from a keynote in 2003. It defines teaching as providing activities that facilitate learning, motivating students to learn with their reasons and imaginations. Notice how it doesn't just say, lecturing facts to a room full of kids. No, it's about active facilitation. It's about actively engaging two completely different parts of a student's brain at the exact same time. By engaging their logical reasoning, educators build a solid foundation for critical thinking. And by firing up their boundless imagination, they actually empower students to innovate and apply those concepts to the real world.
And honestly, this brilliantly illustrates the duality of the profession. Teaching is an art. It involves raw talent, creativity, and imagination to really spark a connection with learners. But at the same time, teaching is also a rigorous science. It requires strict adherence to proven procedures, skills, and techniques that can be systematically studied, transmitted, and improved upon over time. It is the ultimate left brain, right brain balancing act.
Section 2. Traits of effective teachers. We've all seen that classic cartoon trope of a desperate student frantically cramming at the very last second, right? Well, it actually highlights an absolute fundamental baseline for teachers. Always be prepared. Our source notes that if a teacher is fully prepared, literally no time is wasted in class. Preparation isn't just about memorizing the material, it's the actual engine that keeps the classroom moving forward instead of totally stalling out in chaos. Effective educators also exude a highly natural positivity. They radiate optimism toward both the act of teaching itself and the capabilities of their students. Think of that undeniable, goofy smile of a friendly cartoon sloth. That kind of positive energy is totally infectious, and it essentially sets the psychological tone for the entire learning environment. Beyond preparation and positivity, a truly effective teacher holds high expectations. They genuinely believe their students can succeed with challenging tasks. They demonstrate continuous creativity, exercise absolute fairness in grading, and display a personal touch that cultivates a deep, genuine sense of belonging. And perhaps most importantly, they anchor their classroom with deep emotional intelligence. They show compassion for students' personal problems, possess a sense of humor so there's never a dull moment, and inherently respect their learners. They also model forgiveness by giving second chances and have the rare, vital humility to simply admit their own mistakes.
Section 3. The hidden hats teachers wear.
To make sense of the 17-plus distinct roles teachers juggle, we've organized them into 3 main themes: academic, caregiver, and community member. Interestingly, these actually map perfectly to UNESCO's 4 foundational pillars of education. As the academic, the teacher facilitates learning to know and learning to do, mastering their field and objectively processing information. Then, as a caregiver, acting as a counselor or surrogate parent, they facilitate learning to be, nurturing a student's personal development and well-being with deep compassion. And finally, as a community link and social advocate, they foster learning to live together. Teachers seamlessly swap these hats, hour by hour, to fulfill a truly holistic, global educational mission. Now, this builds into an almost contradictory set of expectations. Contrast the community link with the moralist. On one hand, the teacher has to be an engaging, open community link, bringing diverse parents in and actively participating in public life. But, on the other hand, they have to stand incredibly firm as a moralist, establishing strict ethical norms, creating a safe moral atmosphere, and drawing a hard line between right and wrong behavior. Talk about the incredible social agility needed to balance both perfectly. So, the crucial takeaway here is that teachers aren't just biological hard drives spitting out data, they are pioneers in the world of ideas.
This means an effective teacher carries students to completely new insights, leads wide-ranging and limitless inquiry, and actually develops entirely new practices to meet the unique shifting demands of the modern era. They are literal explorers guiding their students into totally uncharted intellectual territories.
And when the final bell rings and students go home, the work definitely doesn't stop. Behind the scenes, the teacher serves as a professional and a leader. They're expected to engage in continuous research, pursue graduate degrees, rigorously self-reflect, mentor and coach their colleagues, and act as a social advocate, ensuring community members can make informed decisions. They are literally the driving engines of their own professional communities.
Section 4. Navigating modern classroom challenges.
First up, teachers today are managing deeply multicultural classrooms. Modern educational environments are incredibly diverse, featuring a rich mix of ethnicity, religion, mother tongue, and diverse cultural traditions. This new reality requires intense, constant awareness from the teacher to prevent misunderstandings and to foster a genuinely integrated environment where absolutely every single student feels seen and respected. Furthermore, our source material outlines how teachers face the direct challenge of racism and inequality. To tackle prejudice, antagonism, or discrimination within the student body, teachers are tasked with actively creating a culturally responsive curriculum. They do this by carefully integrating diverse literatures, dances, and ethnic practices right into their lessons and school activities. The overarching goal is to be culturally sensitive, guaranteeing equal opportunities and fostering real tolerance across all backgrounds. In certain environments, educators also face extreme structural hurdles, like multi-grade classrooms. Imagine trying to teach more than one class level, completely different ages, and totally different curriculums simultaneously in a single room. Our source highlights that this immense multitasking burden often leads directly to both professional and social isolation for the educator.
So how in the world do teachers overcome these modern hurdles? Well, by shifting to a learner-centered approach. Step 1 is assessing what students already know, and crucially, how they learn best. This is where Howard Gardner's 8 multiple intelligences come into play. A teacher has to recognize, does a student thrive via verbal linguistic cues, or are they more logical mathematical? Maybe they lean towards spatial visual, body kinesthetic, musical, interpersonal, or even naturalistic intelligence. Armed with that specific profile, the teacher moves to steps 2 and 3, challenging students to modify concepts and assimilating new information uniquely tailored to those intelligences. Finally, step 4 is redesigning the physical classroom itself so students take active, responsible roles in their education. It brilliantly puts the heavy lifting of learning right onto the student, all while being expertly guided by the teacher.
Section 5. Reflection. To wrap things up, I want to leave you with a rather provocative question taken straight from our source material. Among all the varied roles that a teacher must play, which do you think is the most important after being a facilitator of learning? When you consider the sheer weight of the academic, caregiver, and community hats they juggle every single day, what is the absolutely most vital piece of the puzzle to you? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this deep dive has given you a profound new respect for the true anatomy of a teacher. See you next time.